Hi, my name is Tim Carter, and first of all, I'm thankful for the new camera. Several of the folks here, that all of us that work together in producing this, I just take a few minutes and sit in front of a video camera, but we collaborate with a lot of people and multiple colleagues, and they didn't like the camera apparently. So anyway, thanks for the camera. But this is a really a most substantial. This is the type of things we review. For example, if you this is about a text in the Bible, two texts, Mark 10:6 and Matthew 19:4. Of course, we have the Greek text, the word for word translation, and then the diagram of it. So in this collaborative session, which we do collaborate for Christ, this was triggered from my recent awareness where it occurred, brought to my attention that the young man who built Noah's Ark, the replica to whatever scale he knows that to be, even that's a dispute, which I guess anything you want to dispute. But anyway, so the question then came, have he and those who subscribe to his young earth, that is the insistence that it's 6,000 years old, have they properly used these texts? And this is back to language, of course. Here's the next. This is the 19:4, all diagrams. And this is great. We don't have a problem when we have our collective reasoning sessions. We bring in all the elements, the context, and everything. So really, the question was, apparently, a lot of people have been led to believe that this is a proof text for young Earth creationism, and of course, no text is a proof text. So that's the first error, that we all seem to have the same propensity. We want to go to the Bible, find something, and say, does this not support what I'm saying? And then we have to remind ourselves first, and then others graciously, that the Bible doesn't support anything. We're called to support it. So these are texts about marriage and the divorce, and these religious people put away their wives. Now this is real touchy, because if you today there's still discussion and I hope to have more in the future about ordained men who have been married before, or still have, or let's say have two wives or living wives. Do people recognize that, and do they recognize people? But in this case, this isn't really speaking of that. These men put their wives away and did not give them a bill of divorcement. That is, for the hardness of their hearts, Moses gave a bill of divorcement so the woman could be relieved from the hardship of being his wife, of course. And then secondly, for the right to go and remarry, to be cared for, obviously, or to join another family, so that in some way she wouldn't just cross the threshold of leaving the home and then just be out on the streets, which seemed to be okay at the time of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They took the daughters of Abraham and the sons of Abraham and consigned them to harlotry and to extortion and to work in that compromise relationship with the tyrannical Roman government and all the politics involved. So unscrupulous were these men that they would confiscate property from a widow when her husband died. They would just speak whatever number of times they agreed upon about the putting away of their wife. They just loose her away. It was negligence. There was nothing procedural about it according to the law for the purposes that it was given. So again, they're trying to justify remarriage. And in this text, it says here, I guess the person's concern was, and this is not something I've spent much time with, but it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now, heavens is plural in the original text. It's in English heaven, which could be collective, which is fine. But no, it doesn't say in beginning God created Adam and Eve. So that's true. So their concern was Jesus right about when they were created? Well, they weren't created until, that is, Adam wasn't created until Genesis 1:26, and then later being conjoined to his wife made male and female. That's actually marriage. So my initial reply will only be that Mr. Ham doesn't know, or probably hadn't considered, and not considering the language, that's fine, but he probably doesn't know that if you suggest this, it would appear Jesus doesn't know when Adam was created, and he wasn't created in Genesis 1:1. But I don't think that ever occurred to him. Now, I would say that would be just from evaluating this, and I've already checked out grammar, already looked at the which text. One's TR, Textus Receptus, and then I went and looked at the textually criticized, I guess, Greek text, Nestle Aland, things like that. So I only do that for evaluative purposes. I would never find myself needing anything better than what we all know is the best. So, but in doing this, I didn't know any of this was going on out there. I know that it would have been nice if I had still been in school, but that's one of the things we're doing at IM Koine, and then our future ABA Apologetics, and then through the ABA Preachers Forum, you can see where there's dialogue, not debate. Debate seems to be for the end in mind, who won, and not really did we come to greater knowledge, did we achieve, well, if you want to improve your epistemology, then you engage in collaborative reasoning, collective learning processes. And that's what we do, especially preachers, on that forum. And that forum by Brother James Candler and Sean Faison has been a remarkable illustration of what I remember in school, especially in the seminary, Missionary Baptist Seminary, where it was a vibrant dialogue, active reciprocal relationship. In this case, no, it's not referring to this about the, even you could make a good case for the creation of marriage, but again, I don't know that because Ken Ham spoke in such extremes, like saying people that believe in old earth are, or billions of years, I think is what he said, need to come to grips that they're not serving the God of the loving God of the Bible, or that it's not the God of the old earth is not the loving God of the Bible. So, when you're off the grid like that, there's really nothing to say unless, because here, for me personally, just Tim Carter speaking, it's not possible to be incited. It wouldn't matter to me. Like I said, I plan on attending and going to the theme park to see the boat. My little grandbaby, she'll just be thrilled, but I doubt if I'll have him teach her Hebrew or have him do I don't expect him to be someone who teaches hermeneutics. So, and I shouldn't laugh, but it's just, everything out there, every sideshow, everything, it's not always, we can't just go condemn everything, because like I said, I still have I have my new DVD set of the Ten Commandments, Charlton Heston, and I don't want the new Ten Commandments movie. I don't want any of those. I like Charlton Heston. When I get to heaven, he'll still be Moses, and he was a better Moses than Moses, and anyway. But I just said all that to say that if you're looking for hermeneutics from things like that, you're probably not looking in an area. So I would say contact your seminaries. American Baptist Association has seminaries all around. There are, I'm certain, other seminaries, but I just meant seminaries that would still use the language as the determinant, things like this. So if the person you're consulting in language can't diagram the sentence, can't consult different texts to see if there's some variance, which I pointed out there was one for this poor soul. I pointed out that the There's no noun in Matthew 19 that is speaking of the creation as a noun, but only the act. And then there's the word for make or do rather than create. So there's an alternative text there, and it would have just simply read, the one who makes made them male and female, away from the beginning. Well, then you can go back to Genesis 1:1, in beginning. There's your beginning word, and then you've got a lot of stuff that takes place. So it's not about age dating the earth, but again, I don't know how to respond, because I'm just going to have to just admit that if you ever study Bible languages, and that was a privilege, I was favored to do that. It cost me a lot to do that. I mean, personally, a collateral cost. People that were in my life were severely, well, they let's say they endured much for me to receive that privilege. Well, then once you learn those languages, you find out they're tools, which our language teachers, all of them, told us these are tools. Well, then you move to hermeneutics, which is where you find out what the rules of interpretation are and how to use the tools, if you will. And then if you get through that, and then you step up after you graduate, we go into something that, it was 10 years later before I went back into something called systematic theology. Now, the professor, Dr. John Owen, he was and still is an engineer, science major, and then went on and did all of his seminary work. So his methodical, systemic, all-encompassing, if you will, we could answer any question he asked us as long as we could answer it from Genesis to Revelation. So I laugh now because I'm alive. I made it. But and in our hermeneutics class, we really, you really needed to have a rationale for what you were doing. So, but anyway, that's what makes it so difficult to respond. I have to be careful because not everyone goes through that, if you will. Not everyone. And the seminary is highly recommended. Dr. Lynn Baxter, as most pastors would have told you then, you couldn't have found better language, Hebrew, Greek. You couldn't have found better hermeneutics, and certainly have not found better. I'm certain things are, as far as improved because of the foundation. I'm sure they've advanced beyond, but at the time of which we were speaking, so I've not found anything. It's just that there's so few people that would really sit down. Well, now really, what does that say? So no, I can't. I don't want to pick on Ken Ham. He doesn't know any better, and I don't know anything about him. If someone wants to write in or say, well, now he studied Greek too. Well, okay, but he really kind of needs to give an indication. Well, he studied hermeneutics. Okay, well, what rule is he using? Because there's just a few things here, but that's enough. But no, I don't know that he intended to imply that maybe Jesus didn't know when the beginning was, and didn't know perhaps that it's more about the origin of marriage and the beginning. But that's the best response I can do. I'll put all this into a brochure and publish it. Now I know there's other people out there working on these things, and but creation's a great topic. There's really, if you don't know how to review and revise and learn, my history with creation in graduate school, one professor gave me resources of long ago professors and research they had done, and it was quite conclusive that the earth came to be, something happened, and then the words that describe what happened, it's uninhabitable. And then of course it was very convincing, and so I wrote that paper. I was in another class, I believe it was the philosophy of religion. We selected topics, so I picked the gap theory. I tried to use Walt N. O'Connor, the Masoretic vowel system, very elaborate work, and it was subjective, but it came to it had a rationale according to that system, but that system didn't exist till hundreds of years after the inspires. So I wrote demonstrating how they said the earth did not come to be, that it was, I suppose, already, and if that was is koine, then it was being in a continual state, sometimes in the past uninhabitable. Okay, well then the third paper that I wrote and work I did was actually in language itself, and Ginomai is the word used in the New Testament. So I don't know very many people that do that, and I'm not saying that I was doing it of my own. My character wasn't that high to want to excel in that. It's just that I was curious as what I learned in language, would it demonstrate in philosophy of religion, and would it uphold its validity in systematic theology? And so no, I don't go by the vowel system any longer. It's become a little more like not landmarkism, but landmarkism. And then the language I did find in the Greek New Testament verses from the Old Testament that were quoted, translated in Koine Greek under the purview of the Holy Spirit. So that's probably the biggest determinant for me. And then of course these texts, which until yesterday, in response to what's been taking place, and I would have never even mentioned Ken Ham ever in my life, but when I heard he had said that the God of an old earth is not the living God of the Bible. Now I'm sure that helped catalyze his program and commercial, but we're commissional, not commercial, and we're compassionate, Christ-centered. We're not cruel and man-centered. So I'll do more research, but it appears there could be I'm certain there were a lot of reactions and anti-reactions to that kind of charged language, but that's not really a Koine conversation. Brethren collaborate for the sake of Christ. We collectively reason together. So that's what we enjoy, and have a blessed day.